Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this WDO special event. My name is Bertrand Derome. I'm the Managing Director of WDO and your moderator for today. We're really happy to be able to host this event, finally having people together with us. And in the next 90 minutes, we hope to be sharing some of exciting news about a new initiative we're launching, and we're really excited to share this with you. We'll also be overlooking some of the highlights of one of our flagship programs, since this year is the 50th anniversary of the Interdesign. Now, this session will be presented online and in person, so we welcome all people joining us on Zoom to share their questions that we will use in our Q&A session towards the end. So please share them in the chat, and we'll be happy to get this feedback. We will also record this event so we can present it on WDO.org, as well as on our social media channels right following this event. I am today very glad to be surrounded by a great panel of our board members, and as well we'll be joined later on online with some of our senators to be able to hear some of our past presidents, to hear their insights and to hear their vision on how design can contribute to better society. But with me today, people have traveled from around the world to join us and to share some of their experiences and vision. And I'm very glad to have with us today WDO President Srinivasan. Thank you for joining us. Our Treasurer, Thomas Garvey, and some of our board members, Marta Zarza from Mexico, Anne Asensio from France, and Pier Paolo Peruccio from Italy. Also with us today, our Senator and past President, Luigi Ferreira from Canada. Welcome. It will be for us the opportunity to share some of the knowledge, some of the experience, and we're really glad to be able to do so. But without further ado, I will ask our President, Srinivasan, to share some of his opening remarks. Srini.
Thank you, Bertrand. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as people from all over the world are joining online. And welcome to this event once again. And today we are celebrating this important event, which is in the history of World Design Organization. When I began my presidency in October 2019, I had no idea of what challenges are lying ahead in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. Just in January 2020, we had envisioned a 4-year strategic plan with our board, the newly elected board, here in Montreal in our headquarters. And in March of 2020, the whole world shut down. So what do we do when things are shutting down, right? As we were looking to, unlike many other industries which were struggling because of the global shutdown, we were able to create opportunities for the design community around the world and inspire them to find ways of how we could address matters of relevancy and urgency. So that was what we did. In April 2020, within like a month or few weeks of our shutdown, we partnered with IBM and also Design for America to create and to host an online virtual program that was discussing the challenges around the COVID-19 pandemic, as people did not know what to do and how to handle the COVID-19 related issues. At the end of the program of few weeks online, where 300 plus people participated from all around the globe, we were able to create a set of information, critical information, around how to safeguard our families and also protect the work environment, and share that information with the global community. So this is one of the, we also hosted several similar programs, as this seems to be gaining momentum in the days of pandemic, which continue to plague all of us around the world. So we're going to talk about those programs later today. Long before the term circular economy and social design were trending on Instagram, we at WDO were creating environmental and social good with communities around the globe and discussing matters of local issues with global relevance, one issue at a time, through our long-standing program called the Interdesign. While we are here to celebrate the establishment of WDO Foundation, through which we will continue to build on our work that we have done thus far as WDO, we also will take this opportunity to celebrate and enjoy the 50th anniversary of Interdesign program, which in many ways has laid the foundations for a lot of our programming that we are able to do today. With a long history going back to almost 65 years, we have become the worldwide reference for industrial design community and are the only global network that connects design stakeholders such as the educational institutions, professional bodies, promotional agencies, corporations, and most recently, the municipalities to getting together to work as a single organization. Back in 1957, when WDO was called International Council of Societies of Industrial Design, or ICSID for short, we were focusing mainly on manufacturing, specialization, and consumer-driven products. But today, as WDO, our focus is on process and solutions, and we have been focusing on how to create sustainability by design. That is our current focus today. As we work collaboratively to create better products, solutions, services, experiences, better industry, and ultimately a better environment and society for all of us. Through our design-led programs, we bring the international design community together to address a number of social and environmental issues. Some of our successful programs are World Design Capital, World Design Impact Prize, World Design Talks, World Industrial Design Day, Young Designers Circle, World Design Corporate Circle, Interdesign, and also currently known as Design Challenges. So these are some of the programs about which you can learn more by visiting our website, wdo.org. It is also very imperative to mention that WDO has been enjoying UN consultative status since 1974, and through our members' work and ourselves, we have been able to create value and significant global impact. In the recent years, we've been working with several UN agencies to create tailor-made, meaningful programs that are addressing the social issues. Using the Sustainable Development Goals as a driver for action, WDO encourages designers to embracing solutions economy as a means to provide fresh and innovative perspective to addressing the international development agenda. Now, more than ever, industrial design in particular prioritizes accessibility, affordability, reliability, sustainability, and respectability for both the users and the environment that we live in. So this notion of design for better world is what drives a new generation of designers who understand that we need to place the human interest first in order to create a balance between people, planet, and profit. I look forward to all your cooperation in our continuous journey to creating a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Srini, for setting up the table for a discussion today. And as you mentioned that WDO has embraced the UN SDGs in the recent years, but you also mentioned how much in the almost 65 years of history that we've had, social, environmental, cultural, and economic issues have always been part of our DNA, part of our work. And I know, Pier Paolo, that as part of your work, you love to dig into archives and do research on design. And you've also looked a lot on WDO, then named ICSID, and its work into sustainability. Maybe you can share a little bit of what you digged out of those archives. Something else than dust, I would guess so.
Sure. Thank you, Bertrand. Bertrand, as you know, my background is in design history, so I have to start saying that next year we will celebrate the 65th anniversary of our organization, and so there are 65 years of amazing history, and there are many places, many archives to discover and to study this important, let's say, history. Private and public archives. The main reference has to be the University of Brighton archive, but there are also private archives such as Tommaso Maldonado's archive in Milano. So going back to your question, WDO/ICSID intersects and feeds, let's say, the debate on sustainability very early. So it happened in the 60s, so before the publication of the report to the Club of Rome, The Limits to Growth, 1972. So that book was an iconic book, very popular at the time. But in any case, ICSID, even in the 60s, started to work on this important topic. And the book, we have to say that, make general public aware about the topic of sustainability. So regarding the relationship between design and sustainability, the 60s were very important. There were, of course, the congresses, the ICSID congresses, that were the main places to debate of new topics. I have in my mind the Congress, the 6th one in London. The topic was design, society, and the future. And in that place, there were many cybernetic scientists. There was the American economist Building, so of course designers. So when many people interact in the same direction. So design at the time was not only designing beautiful products, but was also referring to, for instance, future studies and other important topics. Leading figures, also such as Tommaso Maldonado, played an important role in ICSID as first board members and then president. I'm talking about the end of the 60s. But the same Tommaso Maldonado was also a leading figure. I mean, was also rector of the Hochschule für Gestaltung in Ulm. So, you know, a top school, very important organization. So I want to say that everything started at the ICSID/WDO. So going very quickly to Interdesign, so these are very important activities. So we talk about theory. With Interdesign, we move to practice. So very important initiatives that we started in 1971. So as Srini said, 50 years of Interdesign. There were more than 40, actually 45 Interdesign workshops, 2 weeks, very intensive, just to solve local problems, but of, let's say, a global dimension. So starting from local to something that is very, very global. And they covered, let's say, the main topics. Climate change, so very popular today. Of course, sustainability in a broad sense. Water management, food. I have to mention 1971, so the first ICSID, Interdesign workshop. It was in Soviet Union, and it was about the production and distribution of food. So again, so a very important topic. But of course, in Mexico, I'm looking at Marta, many Interdesign tackling the issue of sustainability and how to foster the culture of that place, even the crafts and so on. So I think that also in front of me, there is also the WDO Foundation logo. So I have to say that the foundation, of course, has also to play an important role in enhancing, let's say, the legacy of the organization. It's really, really important. Also promoting culture, promoting research, historical research. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Pier Paolo. And here we clearly see we're at a turning point, having been active on sustainability issue for years now, even before it was called this way, but clearly addressing some of those critical issues. And you mentioned, once again, this 50th anniversary of Interdesign. So we prepared a quick video of some of the highlights of past initiatives that we've had that will give us a glimpse into this program and to give us an idea and an overview. So maybe we can quickly watch this short video. Well, this is such a high-level view of this program. Thomas, I'd like to turn to you because you've been part of a recent Interdesign in Mumbai addressing the issue of humanizing a metropolis. And I think we need to understand a little bit more and dig into that program, what it is, how it happens, where does it come from, and where did it lead us?
Sure. Thank you, Bertrand. As you've heard, we started in 1971, so we're at 50 years now. But the basic idea is that design is a catalyst for social and economic innovation. The examples you saw here. But what is an Interdesign? Interdesign is actually a 2-week intensive workshop. Traditionally, we would bring 30 to 40 designers together for this 2-week period. And usually about 50% of the designers were local and 50% were international. The point was that the local designers knew the context, they knew the systems in place. The international designers suddenly could bring fresh perspectives, the challenge of something new. And so it was this mix of the local and the global, the known and the new, which really is the seed for the catalyst for the innovation. You know, the important thing I think is it's not just the design teams. These design teams that work together also engage with community experts, subject matter experts, local governance, members of the community, all again to kind of better understand the context for this kind of change. Pier Paolo mentioned the first one in 1971 was in the USSR on the topic of the production and distribution of bread. But I wanted to give you just a kind of over the 50 years, just a sample of one per decade of some of the kinds of things that we've been involved with. So in 1982, for example, in the Netherlands, we looked at design for persons with disabilities. Very much ahead of its time. In 1993 in Brazil, we looked at the innovations in the use of reforested wood products. How do we deal with sustainability in the sense of raw materials and resources? In 2005 in South Africa, we looked at sustainable rural transport. Again, imagine the idea of a solution there having global relevance to many other places in the world. And then as you mentioned, the last in-person Interdesign was in 2014 in Mumbai under the topic of humanizing a metropolis. And the idea there, I was very lucky to be a participant. The idea there was an institution that was bringing together nearly 50,000 new students to the city of Mumbai. So you think about that, I was actually part of the team who looked at housing, the design of housing for so many people, but think of all the other things: pedestrian flow, transportation, the impact on the local economy, social spaces for people to gather, all the impact that would come from having 50,000 people coming to a new city. So that was the last of the in-person interdesigns, and you'll see as we're going to talk, we've then now expanded that to a whole new model, right?
And certainly not the last one, hopefully. But since you're talking about the in-person interdesign, we have Marta with us that went through two Interdesign with two very different hats. The first one brings us back to 1996. I think you were a young graduate at the time. Later on, you participated as a host of an Interdesign. So I'm curious to hear, what was your experience, expectations maybe, and experience the first time that got you to want to do a second one? So what were those Interdesign?
Thank you, Bernard. Yeah, I was a participant. I was an early graduated designer at that time in 1996. And so there was this call to be part of the Interdesign in specific workshops. I submitted my documents, my papers, and I was accepted. I was so excited. And it was a great Interdesign whose topic was design strategies for regional development. It was held in the Cuernavaca, Mexico. And the idea was to work with small companies, enterprises, trying to increase competitiveness of regional products in the international market, as well as to strengthen the corporative identity of these small enterprises or companies. So I worked in one of the teams. We were like 6 teams working with local companies, with local problems, with a global solution, trying to look for a global solution. So these teams were, we were national for all over Mexico, designers working, but also from abroad. And it was led by a very experienced designer. In my case was Eduardo Barroso from Brazil. Maybe some of you know him. And in my case, I was working with a company that had agro-industry products, mainly made with cactus. And they were looking forward to take the products to Japan. They had a contact in there, but they needed packaging and image and everything. So that's what we work with that company. It was a great experience. It fulfilled my expectation at that time completely, knowing designers from all over the world and working with very experienced designers as Eduardo Barroso and some others. So the great thing about this, it was also projects that were working with the local government, academia, and obviously the small enterprises. And some of them, I know that got the objective. I mean, they ended up sending the products in the international market, and so they was very successful in that way. But also it was very successful because the government at that time was not very much aware about what design could do to improve companies, you know. So that was also very helpful. So I really loved the program. So when I was a few years later, in 2003, part of a faculty member of the University of the State of Mexico, I was part of the organization team for another Interdesign. In this case was, the topic was related with crafts as a tool for local design development. Two universities worked together, also with the government, local government. In this case was the State of Mexico. And again, with designers trying to help also the handcrafts in this area. They are very good ones with clay, textiles, wicker. So we were also trying to support them in order to be able to export their products and have a better image and even new designs with the crafts. So that was my second experience with the Interdesign, and it was also very Very nice.
Great, great. Thank you, Martha, for sharing this. And we sometimes say this, when you love so much a product, you buy the company, so you ended up liking it so much, the experience to be able to host it afterwards. And here, Thomas, you left on somewhat of a suspense here. It was the last in-person one. And I'd like to bring us back here into early 2020. We're planning with UN Women to do some field work in Nepal to address the issue of violence against women and see how could the Interdesign program help develop better programs for their team to have an impact to change behaviors of men regarding women in the Southeast Asia region. And but we've been hit by quite a pandemic and a lockdown. So, and I know since then we've heard, and many of us are tired of hearing that we need to reinvent ourselves, but it's kind of what happened with Interdesign in a certain way. Can you take us to that time and space and what happened following that?
Yes, certainly, Bertrand, thank you. Yeah, when I think of the power of the Interdesign, I think of actually the unique transformation that's happened in the last 2 years. So as you say, and as was mentioned earlier, in 2020, we were hit with the global pandemic. It was a great time of uncertainty, of change, and there were many reactions that were possible. But the reaction we took, which I think is really critical, is the idea to move forward and try something new, a whole new model. So in fact, what we did was we knew we couldn't meet in person. So we reinvented the model in a virtual format under the new banner of the World Design Challenges. But in the end, what we found was, which was really quite unique and to our advantage, was suddenly we had access not only to 30 or 40 designers, but to hundreds of designers around the world. Not only subject matter experts in the local context, but subject matter experts around the world. So suddenly this idea of what we're doing that was so working so well, suddenly was working better even on a larger scale. The other really exciting thing about the technology of that kind is when you think about it, we were now able to work around time zones. So in one case, we had different teams at the same time in different time zones around the world. But in other cases, you can imagine where, in North and South America, we're working together. At the end of the day, we pass it off to Europe and North Africa, and they, at the end of their day, pass it off to Western Asia and then to Eastern Asia. And by the time we get back up in the morning in North America, it's come back around to us, all developed. So we had this excitement of doing the challenge around the world with people. So to date, we've actually had 4 World Design Challenges. As you mentioned, the first one was in response to COVID-19, which was with IBM and Design for America. Our second one was with the UN Women Asia Pacific region on the topic of violence against women and girls. We then worked with the International Space Station, National Laboratory, and finally with the World Packaging Organization, both on the idea of sustainability and development of new plans for them. So that's where we're at now with the current state of the World Design Challenge.
And you mentioned the opportunity that this brings to being able to connect in different time zones, having subject matter experts from all around the world. Still remains the fact that designers like to be on the ground, do ethnography, be with their user, understanding how what they're challenged with, what they go through and live. And I know, Anne, speaking of a digital world is not something that frightens you at all. Knowing your background, it's kind of your day-to-day life. But how was it for the teams? You've been one of the team leaders on the COVID-19 Design Challenge. So how was it to go through that experience and this shift towards online? What did you see coming out of that experience?
Well, actually, I would like to thank you, Bertrand, for this question, but I would like to continue on the train of thoughts that we were just having from Thomas. What happened is a significant mutation in our relationship. So it's not just a little bit of technology or an acceleration of technology. It's a shift. It's a real shift. When before technology was mostly enhancing our day-to-day analog work, physical encounter, physical interdesign workshops, suddenly the digital took the first place. And we had to basically think upside down about what is, in this case, our interaction with the physical world, because the digital world was just the first world, the way we interact every day. So we were mentioning those challenges. The first one that basically what impressed me was the fact that we were able to react very quickly. The whole World Design Organization network getting fired. Everybody was coming with all of the issues and the challenges. They were very easy to gather and being identified, put it in bucket where we can basically justify their challenge that we need to deep dive. This notion of also engaging the community worldwide, wherever the time zone, that was very important. And also it was beyond just design expertise. What did happen was a social mutation also in the way we address things, because particularly in my case, I was leading the European-Africa time zone. And what was really clear for me is I have to animate a group of people living in Sweden and in Norvège, in France, in Spain, in Africa, but not just everywhere. I mean, Africa is, you have North Africa, you have West Africa and South Africa. And what was really interesting is when you really engage on a very important and urgent challenge that really affect the life of millions of people, you suddenly see that there are some common values that not only the design community carries, but that we, WDO, are in charge of promoting. So we basically passed from a moment where we were looking at sharing best practices, that is absolutely crucial, that every time that we can find a particular solution on something, that immediately everyone should know, and that was through the restitution, that where the time zone was getting together. But it's also going beyond just sharing best practices, is to reinventing our relationships amongst ourselves, put back the human in our thinking. And that was really evident during those workshops. Transgeneration also, the fact that we were able to work with very young designers and at the same time some savvy, experienced one. And it was so, you can see how fragile and powerful and strong the common values and ties that just lead us to have the most wonderful solution. Without to say that the result was very exceptional in a way that they were all very deeply connected to immediate impact to the life of people. During this pandemic, nurses and hospital, they were under, when we did it was March, April 2020, we were really, I mean, everybody was in a sense of urgency, but also in a sense of stress, because we didn't know where we were going. And what I like is this very cold-blooded and very deep thinking that was going on among the teams and how exceptionally creative they were. That was really a blessing to be able to lead such teams of great designers all around the world.
Well, thank you. And we've had a great contribution, and yours was one of them, to lead those teams and lead the way, provide the guidance through the process. To some people, in some cases, when we have some subject matter expert coming to us with sometimes no experience in going through a design process, having experienced designers guiding them and giving them the confidence to be able to go through that process and trust the different workshops that they're going through, sometimes wondering, why am I exploring that weird stuff? But later on, understanding how the outcomes would be building the blocks that would end up being a great solution. So clearly, we were able to... Please.
I'd like to say it's a question of trust. I think these 2 years have built this notion of trust beyond technical processes or best practices. We have establishing a network that trust on each other, believe on each other. They are the catalyst. They trust on collective intelligence. And this is a perfect moment to actually launch a foundation, because that's what we need right now. We need to build up on this knowledge that we gathered during those 2 years. And again, you were asking me the question, digital and physical. We are now getting back to the physical. That's a new challenge. And we're not going to go back to our old habits. So what is very important is this moment having a time also to reflect on our behaviors. That's really what designers are capable of helping us to do. And so now to re-engage with the physical world is going to be the challenge. And so we basically really have shifted everything. How are we going to be living in the physical world next?
And you mentioned trust. I would add some of the learnings that we got out of this process. And I'm thinking of one of the design challenge with UN Women that started early on in 2020, and a project we're still working on with the agency. We first learn how to present design and its potential contribution to fields and issues that aren't used to working with designers on their day-to-day lives, but they're now telling us how they appreciate some of the process that we've used, and they're now applying it internally in the organization to be more innovative. And this human-centered approach to designing better solutions that applies in some cases, and it was the case for the COVID-19 Design Challenge, we had some teams working on more product-type solution, others working on application, others working on system and services to be able to provide the right resources. Yeah. So those were great learnings, but we also, I think, felt that we didn't want to leave our partners once the solution is on the table, but we wanted to help them and provide the support for the implementation, the development and implementation of those solutions. So it became clear at some point that we needed those resources to be able to help those partners implement those solutions. And this is what we're looking forward to do with some of those initiatives and tools we're setting up and providing right now. Maybe a last perspective and inspiration we got from the Interdesign and other programs that we have had us learn that we need, in some cases, more long-term relationship with our partners. And in some cases, transforming a city is not something that happens during a 2-week workshop. And so this is part of the reason why the Interdesign has inspired a much bigger program that will unfold in the coming years, which is World Design Protopolis, a program aimed at cities to be able to understand issues, understand livability and well-being within cities, and to bring the international community to address those issues on a 3 to 5 year program to be able to analyze deeply some of the pressing issues, develop solutions, test them, and measure the results that we're having out of them. So thank you so much for sharing those different experiences of one of our flagship program, as we like to say, because it's kind of a clear symbol of how the design community wants to get engaged more into well-being and into change. And I'd like to use this as a segue for one of our feature moment of today, and the official launch of the WDO Foundation. Our president, Srinivasan.
Thank you, Bernard. It was an interesting dialogue on Interdesign for the last few minutes that we heard from all of our board members. As we already know, that WDO is an agency, it's an international organization that quite passionate about positioning design as a catalyst for change. As we have seen with the UN consultative status, WDO's role has been to influence design policies across various segments of the industry. We were working with the developed countries to position design, as well as telling the emerging countries what design could do for them. So that we've been doing. And at the same time, we also realized that we are members-only organization, as we stood, as the current status of WDO has been, that we cater largely to our membership-driven. And from as we said earlier, from a manufacturing-based and product-based organization protecting the interest of industrial design around the globe, we quickly moved to more sustainable design and adopting the UN SDG goals in the later years, and changed ourselves to be a slightly different body of design, promoting for the good of the society at large. But even so, we were still only focused on membership and membership value and what we can bring it to the members through some of our programs. As we learned through these programs, the value that we are able to bring to larger projects, which are beyond our normal way of looking at things in the ICSID/WDO era, we thought like maybe this is an opportunity for us to address much larger societal problems which are left untouched because of the way in which the current organization has been structured. So this thought has been going on. I mean, every time we look at WDO has been emerging to see what makes sense for the era in which we are living. And the era of COVID has taught us and introduced us to re-establish our leading position in the globe as a catalyst for change. And through those discussions within our board and also within our senators at large, so it was felt that having a separate entity that could focus on issues, we are no longer based on the membership issues or membership focus, but we wanted to take a much, much larger issues on hand. So therefore, the idea of foundations, as most of us know, foundations have a better way to work with the governments. They have a better way to raise larger funds, which needs to be spent on projects which are nobody wants to touch. No corporate would want to go and put their money into a project which does not provide a return on investment. So therefore, we thought it may be not a bad idea to look at the foundation. So therefore, it was going on for almost 2 years until we finally decided that this is the right time for us to do announce. And I'm very, very happy today to announce the formation of WDO Foundation. So we wanted to keep the WDO in our name rather than a World Design Foundation. We wanted to keep a WDO Foundation, and which will be a separate legal entity that will focus on some of the societal problems with the focus on SDG. We continue to keep the focus on Sustainable Development Goals. Some of the key issues or the immediate issues that we are going to be addressing are gender equality and removal of poverty, and also spreading of design education. So one of the things we all know in the last 20 years, design in business has helped businesses overcome a lot of challenges and also create value for the society. So design's role has been no need to emphasize in today's world, people all know, but then this is true only in a lot of the developed countries. If you look at, beyond the developed countries, design education is still a far-fetched thing. So we don't really are able to spread the design education. So therefore, our goal was to bring design education to such regions where it is lacking. And those are things that can be done through larger initiatives of seeking funds from global agencies. We seek to partner with other foundations and governments. So governments are busy in doing other things, but they are also happy to work with foundations for a specific targeted program, such as changing life in many, many parts of the world for certain things. So we also have, so therefore, the foundation will have its own board, its own thing. So we have a small presentation which I will like to go through so we can formally announce the World WDO Foundation and what is our mission and vision. Our mission is to put the design at the forefront of development, as I said, for better ways of living and for the well-being of our world at large. Okay. And next slide, please. In partnership with stakeholders from the civil society, this includes governments, largely cities and governments across the globe, and approach problems that are not easy to solve. Whereas in the WDO era, we are able to create a program and work with the stakeholders who want to get some special benefits out of the program. But in the case of a foundation, there are no end goals immediately. So we are going to tackle those large challenges which are not easy to tackle. And that's the mission and vision of the World WDO Foundation. And we aim to bring the design community, because without design, we are not able to solve a lot of problems in the world. That has been our mandate for a long, long time. We have already seen 65 years of what design can bring to creating better life for all of us. So that's what we'll continue to do. And as I said, we will have a separate board. Currently, the immediate, as a new baby, which we're starting the new organization. So we are lending hand because of our ability to step in with the existing skills and the talent that we have within the WDO as an organization. The initial board will comprise of the outgoing president, as well as one of our senators. We have Luigi Ferrara, who is our past president and senator, has been one of the key influencers in our decision-making to get the WDO Foundation. And then we also have, for continuity of the operational skills, we have Bertrand Jerome, the managing director of WDO, as the initial interim board of directors who will start the operations of WDO Foundation. For the administrative support, we also are going to borrow the skills of our well-oiled machine at WDO. So the administrative team at the WDO currently in Montreal will continue to support the new baby WDO Foundation until we are able to hire and fund the team that will take on the additional challenges. So in this journey, we are also seeking donors, because most of the time people are willing to give a cause, provided they know that somebody like WDO Foundation can take care of those issues. So we are looking for partners, and we are also looking for opportunities to work with cities to challenge, take on those bigger challenges as we move forward as a foundation. Of course, like any foundation, the governance is key issue. Foundations have got much stricter governance than other nonprofit organizations because of the amount of money that is involved. We are talking several hundred millions of dollars that will come into the fund in the due course. And we are hoping to be successful in our ability to raise funds and also show it to the people that, we will be well governed by a quality board, and also we'll have the audit, which will be done much more stringent in a foundation than in the other nonprofit organizations. So these are some of the people may be having questions as to how we are going to do the running of the foundation. So these slides are going to tell us what we're going to do, and we will have, in addition to these, we will be seeking specialists as advisory committee in due course, and we will reach out to people who have the ability and the skill to both raise funds and also help us navigate these tougher challenges that we are currently seeking. WDO is an organization that is always known to act when there is a need to act and take on challenges that it probably does not know at the beginning, but we are always willing to get into a challenge and find a solution through the lens of design, and we are super confident WDO Foundation will be no exception. So I request all of us to continue to be with us in this journey of this new era that we are taking on, and also spread the word and look at opportunities to work with us in whatever way you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Srini, and thank you for this leadership, bringing us to this milestone, which is really important for scaling our impact for future better ways of living. We're really looking forward to working with our stakeholders to be able to partner on some of the projects that the foundation will be supporting. Now I'm going to welcome our past president and senators for an open discussion on the link between this mission that WDO has always had and how it accomplished it, and now where it leads us with the issue of sustainability in front of us and the potential tool that we're putting on the table with the WDO Foundation. So with us today in person, as I mentioned earlier, Luigi Ferrara. He was president from 2003 to 2005. Luigi is an architect, designer, urbanist, and strategist. He's the Dean of the Center of Arts, Design, and Information Technology at George Brown College since 2002. Under his guidance, the center was ranked one of the top 60 design schools in North America, and its Institute Without Boundaries was ranked one of the top 4 urban design programs in the world. Welcome, Luigi. Online with us today, Brandon Jen, president of WDO from 2013 to 2015. Brandon is the CEO of Good Design Australia, chair of the Australian Good Design Awards, and deputy chair of the Australian Design Council. He has spent the past 25 years passionately advocating for the value of good design to improve social, economic, cultural, and environmental quality of life. He is a qualified industrial designer and currently an adjunct professor of industrial design at both the University of Canberra and the University of New South Wales. Welcome, Brandon. With us today also online, Luisa Boccietto, our most recent senator, president from 2017 to 2019. Luisa is a world-renowned designer and architect in both public and private sector, carrying out projects aimed at local development, urban reclamation, and renovation. Her projects and products are published in numerous specialized magazines. She has organized exhibits and contributed text on architecture and design for various publications. Luisa also cooperates as visiting professor with universities and design schools. As past president of ADI, Luisa served on its governing council, and she is also a past president of the Association of Architects in Biella. She was also member of the organizing committee for the World Design Capital 2008 Torino. Welcome with us, Luisa. Nice to have you. And I will now hand it to Srini to moderate this panel discussion. Srini.
Welcome, my dear senators and past presidents who preceded me in running the organization. It's a pleasure to meet. So we were thinking maybe it's a good idea for us as we transition the organization through the years. It probably would have been a good idea for us to talk a little bit about the past and the immediate, past, and then probably the current, and then maybe delve on to the future. So I just have a couple of questions for our dear senators. So Luigi, since you are the senior most senator on the dais today, so I would like to ask you, so you have served as a president-elect, and also been a very active senator, one of the very active senators, and been involved with us on a almost daily basis. So I would like to have you, your thoughts of impressions during your term at ICSID, how ICSID was able to influence the members and create value for themselves and for the organization, and also how the community benefited through these interactions. So give us an example or two, if you can.
Srini, it's my pleasure to share with everyone those experiences, because being a board member and a president of ICSID is really an unforgettable experience of exchange, of dynamic interaction with design communities and with populations all over the world. So, one of my favorite moments, and really understanding what WDO can do for the world was during my term as president. We worked with the country of Botswana and with the University of Botswana to enable them to have their first industrial design program be launched. We supported them in its development, and the leveraging of the international community to help the local community found the school and actually even staff the school in its initial period of growth has really helped change that country and changed the lives of youth in Southern Africa, being able to access and engage in a new profession, in a new creative world. Another example that is dear to my heart as well is when we founded the concept of the World Design Capital. And we were able to engage with the community in Torino, a design community that has like an illustrious history, even back before automobiles, back into the earlier centuries with armor and the creation of products in history, but in food products, in graphic design, a really rich culture and a community that was looking to reinvent itself. And the World Design Capital program that we launched at that time was really about how we could work with communities to rebuild their economies, to rebrand themselves as a creative community. And the project with Torino was incredible in that way, because it really galvanized what is, I think, now one of the cities of the future. Bruce Sterling moved to Torino, the science fiction writer, because he saw this kind of transformation that was happening. And so the World Design Organization can be that kind of catalyst by its interesting programs, by generating the kind of activity that Anne described when she was talking about the response with the World Design Challenge, because there's so much creativity and knowledge out there in the world, and there's so much that we can learn from each other, and the World Design Organization is a platform from that. And I think the foundation, if the World Design Organization was the platform that supported the world of design, I think the World Design Foundation can be the platform that helps us design a new world. So let's embrace that dream and work as designers do, with always the positivity and the optimism of building a new future for us all.
Thank you, Luigi. And I think, we are really thankful to your leadership at that time to create what has become one of our marquee programs, World Design Capital. We are still enjoying the benefits of that event that created not only the awareness of design to the cities, and also brought in ICSID into a different era in terms of how we work with cities to create a better world. So thank you, and we're really enjoying today. As we know, very soon we're going to start the next edition of the World Design Capital in soon. So Brandon, you've had one of the longest stints at ICSID/WDO, so you have the honor of having both the organization names behind your name, and serving 8 years from being a board member to doing treasurer, and also president-elect and president, and now a senator. So you were also played a major role in the transformation of ICSID becoming WDO. Please take us through the journey of what was the actions that were necessary at that time during your term. I was a young board member with you at that time, and I would like to have the audience learn from you what was going on that transpired us from ICSID to WDO.
Thank you, Srini. And firstly, just enormous congratulations to you and the whole board for this announcement today in setting up the WDO Foundation. I think it's a fantastic initiative. It's very timely as well, and I know how difficult it is to set something like this up, so congratulations to you. The journey from from ICSID to WDO was really interesting. It was a very interesting time. I was very fortunate to be joined with some incredible board members at the time as well, and I think that what started the catalyst for the change was really building on, of course, all the incredible work that had been done by board members and presidents before me, Luigi, Peter Zek. I was fortunate that my first president was Carlos Heinrichsen, and Mark Breitenberg then took over from him. But this idea of really looking at ICSID, applying design thinking, if you like, to the organisation and saying, what is our mission? What is our vision for the future? what is the definition of industrial design? As a board during my presidency, we looked at that, and it was last defined, I think, in the early 70s. And we also looked at all the projects, World Design Capital. We initiated the World Design Impact Prize. We had Interdesign, and things just weren't really connecting too well. ICSID as a name wasn't really representing what we were aspiring to as an organisation. And so we set about a very ambitious agenda for change to start with redefining what industrial design is as a profession. In the year 2015, the definition changed dramatically from designing products, manufactured products, to systems and services and experience and actual business models and societal outcomes. And we also put a lot of focus on really this consultative status that we had with the United Nations in trying to find out which direction do we go in terms of resetting our organisation, resetting our vision and our mission. And we thought it's sitting right in front of us. The Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN, we were the only global design organisation to have consultative status with the UN. So it just made sense to also then look at our name and say to ourselves, well, is the International Council of Societies of Industrial Design really the name that reflects and aspires to what we want to be and what we want the global design profession, and particularly the global industrial design profession, to aspire to as well. So we took this to 2015, the General Assembly in Guangzhou in South Korea, and I must say it was probably one of the most nervous General Assemblies I'd ever been a part of, and also the most exciting and most rewarding, because it was unanimous to our members embrace this idea of changing the organization's name and our mission and our vision, and this, of course, this definition of industrial design. So, if I look back now, the term circular design, circular economy, sustainability was also incredibly important, but it's probably not as relevant as what it is today. I just turned the news on here, and we've got all the world leaders meeting in Glasgow for COP26, talking about economies transitioning to net zero all around the world. To me, this is the most exciting time for the World Design Organization, for the global design community, to be a part of this change that our world desperately needs. Everything needs to be redesigned. Our systems, our services, our businesses, our business models, our products, everything has to be reconfigured and redesigned if we are actually going to transition towards a net zero global economy. And we didn't really have so much understanding of that back in the year 2000, 2005, 2015, when I was part of the board. It was on the horizon, but it certainly wasn't as topical as what it is today. So, for me, I think it was the best decision we ever made. It certainly gave WDO much more relevance in terms of aligning design towards these big global challenges, and particularly, I think, more importantly, changed the narrative around design being aligned to problem solving, and that's ultimately what designers do. We're all programmed to solve problems, and that's why I think the foundation that you're launching today is just brilliant. I'm super keen to see where this goes. And for me, it only makes me more proud to be a part of the WDO family. So thank you for the invitation, Srini.
Thank you, Brandon. So it's also, during your term, you taught all of us at the board, at the executive level, as well as to the membership, how as an organization, we are not afraid to change the name or change the vision of the organization, and also not be afraid to think big. I think that was the major input that I had as a young board member during your term, saying that we should not be afraid. If there is something needed to be done, we need to change. I think it was history when we changed the name from ICSID to WDO, leaving all the legacy of 50 plus years. And that was a great thing. Till today, we are using that mantra to go and think even much beyond, to give us the strength to think like we can be different and we can be looking at programs that we did not think of 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So thank you again. And I also want to appreciate your passion getting up at 2 a.m. in Australia to be here with us. Much, much appreciated, Brandon. So thank you. So now moving on to Louisa. You were really, you took over the presidency at the 60th year in Torino, your hometown, and also you are coming into this so-called new baby of WDO. And a lot of questions were there. Why WDO? What is WDO going to do different than ICSID? And you also had to do a lot of change management during your term. So I would like you to share with us your thoughts on how you are able to manage the change, coming in as a new president with a new organization, new look logos, and also creating the membership value, which was, like most organizations, they go up and down. So we were really in the yo-yo stage of our membership value. And I would like you to share with us your experiences on how you are managing and taking the organization through these challenges.
Thank you, Srini. I'm very happy to be with all of you today. And first of all, I want to congratulate with you and your board to create this foundation, because it's a really a good thing for the future for WDO. It was too exciting for me to participate, to renew from the path from ICSID to WDO. It was not simple. And the work started, I was president from 2017, 2019, and the new name started with my presidency. But the work started before with Brandon, that is here today with us, with Mugendi after, and continue with you. It's a common path, and I was honored to participate to this path. We decided to change the name with the board before, and then we know that we need to change also the internal organization. That was a work less visible, but so important for the future of the organization. And then another work was to change the vision, because it's not only a formal changement to change the name. We need really to change the vision for the future. And what we do in 2017 to involve all the organization of the world to sign the involvement on the UN SDG goals. It was a strange thing in that moment, but after 2 years, we really understand that is central for our work as a designer, as an entrepreneur, as a teaching school, because sustainability in the last 2 years become real the problem for the future, and real the problem and the opportunity also for design to contribute to create a better world. As a designer, I continue to work in that direction. I think about WDO as an important role to promote this vision on design. And after that, after 100 years from the starting of design as a discipline, as industrial design from the Bauhaus, now we understand that design is not more only production, but is create the opportunity, create the possibility for new generation to contribute to save the planet. For 100 years, we work to push, to solve the need of human need. And now we understand that the The need is the planet. The need is to contribute, to create solution. And I think that is the world has changed in the last 2 years, and design has changed. That is a new path. And I think in that situation, when we create the new vision for the WDO, we think to the future. In the last 2 years, I think with the pandemic period, we think a lot to the present, to the problem of the present. And now is the moment with the foundation to think to the past, to understand which is our identity, and look to the past for a little moment, and to create the condition for restart, not as in the past, but in a new way for the future. And I think that is the role for the foundation. I'm very, very happy to know this new project for World Design Organization. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you, Luisa, for your encouraging words. So, Brandon, from the Interdesign to congresses to virtual design challenges and hybrid meetings, we have seen a lot of change accelerated by the pandemic. How have you seen the design community adapting to this rapid change?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Srini. I think the whole world has changed, and in my opinion, there isn't really going back to normal. There's a lot of discussion at the moment that designers don't design backwards; we design forwards. We don't want to design back to the way that we were. We want to sort of envisage a better future, and I think that notion carries through, for me at least. The whole pandemic has really provided an opportunity to reset, to rethink what we do as an industry. We talk continually at WDO, the conversations are all about how do you position design as this problem-solving tool for some of the world's biggest problems. Well, we've just been given the world's biggest problem, a pandemic, and we've all had to navigate our way through it. But I think, at least from my part of the world, the design industry is flourishing. I think there's been a lot more attention given to the profession of design to help navigate through all this complexity, whether that's designing personal protection gear, or whether it's designing or redesigning systems or healthcare systems or QR code check-ins. The need for design has certainly increased. The importance of design and the understanding of design amongst business and amongst government has certainly increased. And I think that's a good thing. The other point I'd like to make is that I think the pandemic has given us a good wake-up call, not only the design industry, but the whole wide world, in the sense that we were able to mobilize quite quickly to come up with solutions. In a matter of 2 years, this pandemic has been ravaging all over the world. We've managed to come up with some amazing technological breakthroughs, vaccines, ways of operating, ways of living. But the bigger challenge, I hate to say it, is the issue around climate change and the need for our economies around the world to transition towards net zero, to take a circular design approach to everything it is that they do. And I think, again, the need for designers is only going to increase, and that's a good thing. It's a good thing for our profession as designers. It's a good thing for hopefully businesses and governments around the world to understand that designers are part of the solution. We're not the only solution, but we're part of the solution, and hopefully the demand for professional design just only increases as a result of the pandemic, and also this big, massive challenge that we have in front of us: climate change, inequality, all the SDGs that are there, those are big design problems. And whenever I talk about the SDGs, I always joke. I don't call them Sustainable Development Goals. I call them the Sustainable Design Goals, because they are all design challenges. So, I think that the pandemic has been a bit of a blessing in disguise in a way for the design sector, and just allowed us to really reinforce what it is that we do as a profession in terms of solving some big problems.
Thank you, Brendan. I think, that was one of the objectives of the new foundation, to be able to provide the tools to people who are not designers today to be able to use design in future to solve some of the problems that we are struggling with today. So I think pandemic has certainly accelerated the need for having more designers on this planet. So thank you again for that. So Aloisi, before we go, so I'll ask you the last question. So what are you most excited about with this new announcement of our foundation? And what do you think, we could be happy if we achieve certain things during the first year or the second year?
Well, for me, I think when the pandemic hit, within a few days, the sky cleared in Toronto, and the lack of vehicles on the road all of a sudden made you realize that we are having a tremendous impact in the things that we do in our life and in the way our lives are designed. And that realization in that moment for me really clarified the importance of reimagining our future ways of living, of really thinking through how we are living every day, and designing this new life that we need to make a better world for everyone. And I am incredibly interested in this phygital world that we're living in, because also the pandemic pushed us into a phygital realm where we were so immersed in the digital, and it's affecting our psyches in new ways. It's affecting our children. It's affecting our students in our schools. And yet, how do we live in a healthy way in the physical world and in this digital world? And they're so, as McLuhan would say, they've become like a ground that's all around us. And even this event where you see us here in physical presence, but there's people watching us all over the world, and there's information probably being exchanged as we're speaking. It's a whole new kind of reality. And I think if, in its first year, the foundation can set a template for how we can collaborate and generate new knowledge and new interaction with each other through some kind of, almost global relay of thinking, very much as was established with the precedent in the World Design Challenges. I think that will be a tremendous opening. We need to deeply explore not only our physical world, but this digital world, and we need to understand the relationships between them to provide the right solutions. I was struck once, I was invited to Italy, and I met someone who had actually been a shepherd in Abruzzo, and he was working for Telecom Italia, and he was part of a movement that was called the Bit and Watt. And the movement was about moving bits to reduce watts. And to me, it was very, very exciting. But I think one of the reasons this individual had been able to think of this was because he had lived, he lived in the digital world of the telecom, but in his youth, he had lived in, a rural world of the of being a shepherd, right? So this, how are we going to reconcile these tremendous differences that are around us in the world, so that we can preserve the best of what is physical in our world and actually engage in the digital world in a way, in a healthy way? Because right now, as we see, it's actually impacting us and we're not even aware of what it's doing to us. So to me, that's the exciting nub. I want over the next 2 years to conquer this phygital space.
Thank you, Luigi. And it's always great to listen to the wisdom of our senators for now and forever. But then we also have other time constraints. So I'm going to have Natalie, if there are any questions for the senators that we could ask and get their inputs.
Hello, test.
Yeah, Natalie, you can give us a question and also ask to who they would ask the question to one of our senators.
Srini, we also have questions from our audience. If you'd like to invite them first, I can come
Absolutely.
in after with
we could
our,
do the audience first and then
Zoom.
we could do the online. Yes. If you have any question, please come to the mic and give your name and then also the question and who would you like from among the elite panel to answer your question.
In the meantime, we can ask a question from Zoom. We have one that says, why is now the right time to launch a foundation?
Okay. Thank you for the question. This has been on the minds of a lot of our members as well as some of our board members. So I think, as I said, we have learned the value of providing societal solutions, especially during the last 2 years when we were not focused on the traditional programs that were more membership-oriented. So that gave us, and we also enacted the UN consultative status in a very big way, in a very significant way, as we started working with the UN agencies and extended to other global organizations like World Packaging Organizations to find value and how the new life is going to unfold. So that gave us the awakening saying that, are we going to be more focused or is there another way to take on more wicked problems? I think especially when we did the UN Women Challenge, we realized the importance. We all know the gender balance, but we realized how serious the issue is, violence against women and children. So that really awakened our thought collectively as a board to say that, what are we going to do? Are we going to be happy with this 3-week digital challenge and produce a report saying these are all the things that we need to do? Or could we go further and see how do we bring an end to the solution that we were originally thinking of? So that led us to serious thinking, because serious thinking needs serious money. And then we just cannot burden our membership. They came to us for a specific reason. So then, therefore, the foundation was more appropriate at this time when we are getting on a bigger journey.
Great. I have another question here. We're joined on Zoom by quite a number of our members around the world. And one is asking, will the WDO Foundation be working with WDO members only? How does one get involved with this movement?
As I said earlier, so WDO Foundation is going to be a standalone entity with the status of a foundation, all legal structures that are required to be a foundation. And WDO Foundation will not be working only with members, but it is for the globe. Anybody in this globe, they have a project, they have money to donate, and they have some other, they want some grants. All these are possible with the Global Foundation. So it will be truly a global foundation, just like many other foundations that are there today, but for a specific cause. But for a design-led foundation, I think we are very unique, because we all have been talking for so many years and also earlier today how design can solve problems. So we are going to use the same lens of design to solve some of the problems through the foundation that we are currently not addressing in the WDO. Okay, we have an audience. Yes, please state your name and also the question, please.
My name is Lorena Garcia Giron, and I wanted to congratulate you all, first of all, for the launch. I was a participant in the design challenge concerning violence against women, or gender-based violence, and I wanted to share that it was a very transformative experience. I'm happy to hear that you will not only be working with members of WDO, but to extend that. I find that change can allow for change back, but transformation does not, you can't go back from transformation. So I'm very happy to see that you have evolved into WDO and have now decided to launch WDO Foundation. I also wanted to say that it is a very pleasant and inclusive environment, because I am not an industrial designer, I'm a graphic designer, and the experience of being in this design challenge was amazing in the sense that I got to be with so many different kinds of designers with a single purpose, and it was a very, very empowering experience. So it was not that much of a question, it was just sharing my experience with you all and taking the time to say bravo and well done.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I think it's very, very encouraging to hear from you that, I'm very happy that one of our live participants are here live to be with us to share that experience. This is really beautiful. This is what we intend to do and extend it to other parts of the world and encourage people. That's the goal. And I'm really happy that you are able to witness in person so you can spread the message to non-industrial designers so that, we can have global impact together.
We have another question from Zoom here, a simple but important question. How can I donate today?
We take the credit cards, please. So please contact our WDO administrative staff. So if you go to our website, is also getting launched later today. So if you go to our website, you can just have to do a simple click button. Taking money is always the easiest in this world. So we will be able to do that, but for a noble cause.
And if I may here, Srini, just add that you can now go online to WDOFoundation.org, and you will find some of the information on the mission of the foundation and also the link for donations as well.
As a budding organization, no amount is small, and it's all, the multiple drops make a big ocean. So we are just happy to have, we have some initial funding. So, I was expecting some questions, but we already have some funding that we have been able to garner within the last, few weeks. And we are looking forward to any contribution that can come. And we are, please contact us for any questions you have as to how this money will be used or what else you can do to participate. It's just not only donating money, but we also want you to participate and show us, some problems that we can solve together.
Great, absolutely. Another question we have here. With this strategic initiative, it appears that our deep-rooted aspiration of contributing to major world problems through design will be a major focus of the WDO Foundation. Can we assume that from now on, WDO will be much more focused on practical, operational issues, problems of industrial designers, educators, and other design stakeholders in this field?
A very long question, so can you please repeat the question?
I'll ask the second half of the question. Can we assume that from now on, WDO will be much more focused on practical operational issues, problems of industrial designers, educators, and other design stakeholders in this field?
I want to reiterate that WDO and WDO Foundation are two separate organizations. While part of the question that you asked will be managed by the WDO in its existing programs, and will work with customized, tailored programs with the membership as well as with some of the governmental entities. WDO Foundation will be focusing on much larger societal problems that the cities are struggling to find solutions for, or the community is finding difficulty in spreading a message so that, they can do a goodwill. It could be changing the ways of life in a given community. It could be related to the problems that we are unable to address as a society. Those are some of the challenges that will be the current and immediate focus for the foundation. So, Brandon, you want to add a little bit to this with your views on?
Yeah, look, I think you summed it up, Srini. Having sat on the board for so many terms, I understand the complexities in how we are structured as an organisation. There's certain things we can't do, certain things we can do. And to me, this makes logical sense to separate this function out and make sure that it's able to be much more operational, much more focused on what it is you're trying to do. So, I also agree that as an organisation representing the community of industrial design around the world, we can't lose focus of that. We still have a lot of work to do to make sure that we serve our members and we serve the profession of industrial design and not forget that we are, at the end of the day, the global body for industrial design. So I think it makes sense, in my opinion, to separate these two activities out and make sure that the foundation is not hamstrung by WDO as an organisation itself.
Thank you. That's also one of the reasons I made a comment on the governance of the foundation. So we are only the interim board of directors because, today we are having an umbilical cord between the two organizations. But eventually, the baby will grow to be able to walk on its own. And that's when, we will have a separate entity, separate team. Entity is separate now, but a separate human team will be installed so that, we can take the next journey with more confidence. Luigi, can you just add a little bit on the foundation-related questions that was coming from?
Yes. Well, I think it's this having the foundation enables WDO to really address its practical matters for the industrial design community and to focus on that. But the foundation enables us to think as a community about how do we interact with others to solve the problems of our world. And so it enables us to do that interdisciplinary work that Ms. Garcia described when she came and participated in the UN Women Challenge. And it enables us, I think, as a foundation to reach out and explain to the people in the financial world, in the philanthropic world, et cetera, how they work often for years trying to figure out how to solve a problem. But what is always missing is the creative aspect of solving problems. So they research the problem, they raise awareness about the problem, but they never develop the answers to the problem. And so I think this foundation that we're creating has this really critical role. I know that when we held the Humane Village Conference in Toronto, which was the ICSID conference of that time, Maury Strong, who attended, realized for the first time he had been setting, he had done Rio, and then he had done Rio +5, and he was asking me why, he wasn't able to solve the issue of sustainability. And the problem is that they're not bringing a creative approach to the solution. They're bringing analytical tools, research. They're really understanding the problems that exist, not imagining what we need to change the conditions that we're living with and to change the effects that we're living with. So I see this foundation being really relevant to philanthropists around the world who are trying to find solutions and are not finding them, and to financial organizations and to corporations that are looking to do much better in how they're doing well, and also to governments who are often mired in the political discussions, which could be easily solved through strong tactical solutions that are designed using time as a design element. So I have tremendous hope for what the foundation will be able to do and the new resources that it would be able to attract, both from the design community and from other aspects of the community around the world.
Thank you, Luigi, for reiterating the foundation's mandate is not just for designers, as Brandon eloquently put. We continue to support the industrial design profession through the WDO programs and WDO mandates on promoting the design fraternity. But foundation will be for all, not just for the designers. It could be for sociologists, for the politicians, for the change makers, for the the common man or common women, see, it's all going to be for everybody and solving the problems that we are not able to solve in a very narrow focus of what we have been trying to do in the current scenario. So,
Thanks.
A question for...
Yeah, 1 second. Lisa, I want to ask you to add to this, yes.
I can talk?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course you can talk. You are the senator.
For me, one important thing to tell is that always we are talking about design with people who are doing design, as a designer, as a teacher, as an entrepreneur. But the foundation can talk about our vision to other subjects, government, politicians, etc. That is important because we need to contribute with our vision, with our competence. But out of our world, maybe people don't understand how they can use design to solve the problem. And that voice needs to arrive to the final people. And that is important because WDO board and president are involved in going on ordinary programs, but have a foundation that can think with a long vision. It's so important to continue to create a solution, to create the contribution. And I think it's a good decision and it's a good moment for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Luisa, for your support. Natalie, the last question, maybe?
We still have quite a few good ones. If there's still a little bit of time, we can ask. One for our senators here. What are the biggest lessons learned over the years in WDO and with Interdesign that will shape the foundation's structure and approach towards wicked problems? How will the foundation define success? Maybe we can break those two questions up.
Okay,
So
I'm
the
going to
biggest
have all
lessons.
the three senators answer this question, which is because we have gone through a different era and we have had Interdesign almost on a yearly basis. First Luigi, then Luisa, then Brandon.
So, to me, the Interdesign is a really powerful thing. It's really about the encounter between people from different disciplines, from different places, and how the exchange of knowledge can elevate our understanding of problems of life, and more importantly, how it can build a sense of connection and joint purpose for people. So, as a model, it's influenced, for instance, our own institute, Without Boundaries, at George Brown. We basically teach through conducting interdesigns. Like it is we call them charrettes, but really they're interdesigns. And so that template, I think, is a powerful template that's fundamental, I think, in human evolution and development, because it's through that exchange that we achieve these things. And my experience with the interdesigns, to me there was one interdesign that was really beautiful because it was about water, and it took place in Mexico, Australia, and South Africa, and people were trying to solve issues of water, especially in rural areas, and seeing the sharing of knowledge between those areas that faced very common problem it remains with me to this day. Products were developed out of that revolutionized the life of mainly women, especially in the African context, because they were able to move water in a way that was very different because of the design solution. So it's this power, I think, that I think the Interdesign will be central to what the foundation does, because it really is when design lands into a community and does that transformation. And that transformation isn't only in the physical environment, it's in the hearts and minds of everyone that is there.
Thank you, Luigi. So, Luisa, do you need to hear the question again?
Yes, during my term, we don't realize the interdesign, and we realized the talks around the world. That was a new format that we launched and we continue to work on. And I think all these programs we need that because we need to maintain the contact with people, with designer, and also the important thing is to work on the transversal involvement because design is in between technological things and humanistic things. We need to work on this direction. And I think each situation that give us the opportunity to be in contact with designer, with companies, with schools, is so important because we are representative around the world, but we need to look at the contact with local things that are different in each part of the world. And also, I think it's important to continue to promote working with the south of the world as Africa, India, and South America, that we need to continue to promote more work.
Thank you, Lisa. Brandon?
Yeah, if for me, one of the incredible things about Interdesign, Luigi really focused on that as well, is just that it brings all these different disciplines together. It's not just designers. The idea of transdisciplinary design and multidisciplinary design, that if we think Interdesign was created 50 years ago, these terms weren't even invented yet. And I think that's the most powerful thing about the way that designers operate, the way that designers think. We don't have all the solutions, but we're able to orchestrate an important conversation around a particular problem and do that with many different disciplines, many different stakeholders. The most obvious example for me was an Interdesign in Sweden that one of our previous board members led, Robin Edman. And this is about relocating an entire community in a mining town in Sweden. So these are people's lives, these are people's houses, their homes that have to be basically uprooted and shifted to a completely new community because this mine had created a big hole in the center of the city. What an incredible complex project. And wrapping an Interdesign around that allowed the right problem to be solved and then solving that problem right, which is the classic thing about design. But rooted in that was this idea of designing for people, designing with people, co-designing solutions. And I think that's an incredibly powerful thing that Interdesign offers, and just bringing this multitude of thinking and wrapping them all around a particular problem. To answer your question, I think you are asking what are the lessons learned, I think. I think the one thing we have to do a lot more of is document the process, is really tell the powerful story of the design process, and that it's not some magical formula, that there is actually a professional design process that brings all these people together and takes them through a problem-solving process. And I think we can be much better at telling that story and creating value around that process as well.
Thank you, Brandon.
We have time for just one last question, but I think it really brings what we've been talking about together nicely. Will there still be interdesigns, or will these now be incorporated into the foundation?
Good question. The answer is we don't know. So I think it's, as Luigi put, maybe there is one thing will lead to another one. Because as Luigi mentioned and also Brandon confirmed, and we also got into a miniature version on the form of World Design Talks, as Luisa mentioned. The interdesigns that we have been seeing so far in the 50 years, they are mostly bringing awareness of a problem to a community. Be it, sometimes there are solutions. As Brandon said, we really moved the city that was caving in to a new place. But largely, they are only bringing the awareness to the authorities or the political bodies, because WDO, they are not having the political will. They do not have the funds to complete a solution in its entirety all the time. That, to me, would be the starting point where the foundation could take it on, influence the government because of the way the foundations work with the governments, and also be able to raise money to complete the solution, which started off as an interdesign, where people are from the globe, 40, 50 designers are looking for a solution and bringing awareness and putting a blueprint, saying, this is how the solution should look. Maybe that's a starting point for the foundation. I hope I've, Luigi, do you?
I think that is such a wonderful ambition, because the important thing with design is always not only the conceiving of the design, but the placing of the design into context, and then the learning from it being in context. And I think if anything that we know in the future, as we move to evolutionary design paradigms, that designs in the future aren't static. They're changeable over time. They're in evolution. And so the possibility of the foundation following processes and supporting communities as they undertake the processes, I think there could be nothing more beautiful for the foundation to do than that.
Thank you, Luigi. So I think we have exceeded the time, but it's an amazing and enchanting session that we had with the elders of the organization, namely the senators. They are the council of wisdom for us over the years. They've been guiding the current board and also the membership in giving their experiences and leading us to making better value for our members. So I want to thank on behalf of all of us out here, Brandon, Luisa, and dear Luigi. Thank you very much for your invaluable advice and also time that you took to be with us today. So we really had a great time. So we continue to work with you offline. But for now, I think we will be saying goodbye to our remote senators, namely Luisa and Brandon. You go to well-deserved sleep now. And then we will get on with the program. Thank you once again. So let's give a round of applause to our senators. So we've been very graceful in being there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Srini, and thank you to our senators. I will use Luisa's words to say that, yes, looking to the past, to our past president, to get a clearer vision of our future is so important. And I think I'm not the only one who would have wanted to hear much more of them. So we'll certainly re-invite you for those types of exchanges. Now, talking about the future, unfortunately, our president-elect had to leave us for an emergency, but he is joining us online. So we will have somewhat of a view of the future with the incoming president at the next board and currently president-elect David Kazuma from the United States.
Thank you, Bertrand, and greetings to all of our members, our friends, and our colleagues from around the world. As the president-elect of the World Design Organization, it's my honor and it's my pleasure to join you via video to celebrate the launch of the WDO Foundation. To begin, I want to first acknowledge what I feel has been an incredible day with members of the board, plus a few prominent WDO senators in attendance who are sharing publicly their historical perspective and their continued support of WDO and now the WDO Foundation. So Luigi, Brandon, Luisa, so wonderful to see you here. An event like this is something which has never happened before today. And we take a lot of pride that we've been successful to get to this stage. The organization is also blessed with a very ambitious board of directors and a very talented staff at the Secretariat of the World Design Organization based in Montreal. Also, special recognition, especially to Srinivasan, WDO's president, for his leadership in providing the vision for our long-term strategic plan and for driving towards the realization of many achievements, including this WDO Foundation. Those of you who have been connected to the WDO over the past many years will know how design can contribute as a major driving force and catalyst. Many people today use that word catalyst for global and social improvement. The WDO has been promoting design for a better world using the UN SDGs as a guideline to partner and to work towards solving some of humanity's greatest challenges. Brandon Geen had emphasized that as well. The profession of design has been utilized as a lever of change and for development in future cities and communities. So this means championing design as a fundamental tool for making our living communities much more inclusive, much more safe, much more resilient, and of course, sustainable. Our focus in the next term will be to build upon the strategic growth plan, which was created and executed by the WDO board during this current term. So this will include, first, maximizing the visibility and the achievements of our WDO member organizations in their work to help achieve the goals of the UN SDGs. The World Design Organization is very proud to have over 180 member organizations around the world, which are estimated to connect to over 400,000 designers around the globe. The WDO members collectively believe that design can create a better world, and this includes using design-driven innovation to enhance the economic, the social, cultural, and of course, environmental quality of life. The second is to continue to strengthen partnerships and expand working relationships with global networks. So this includes public, private, and also civil society partnerships, many of which you've heard about today, together sharing their knowledge and sharing their experiences, which allows the building of strategies, which will help to extend our reach and to provide solutions and benefits which actually work. Our recent activities and our international collaborations with many organizations to date, you've heard about the UN Women, the ISS National Lab. We've also participated in webinars with UNIDO and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, to name a few. Also corporations like IBM. They have highlighted how design can drive impactful solutions. So taking an interdisciplinary approach where we merge human-centered design together with design thinking, and we combine it with technology and other disciplines, can really help to drive design solutions to become the very best that they can be. We're also going to focus on optimizing programs and project initiatives to support the achievement of UN SDGs in countries around the world. So this includes engaging on social issues. Srini had mentioned inequality, which has been magnified by the COVID pandemic. And we've seen how design can be used as a tool for social improvement. And as more people come to realize the power of design, I'm also convinced that more and more designers will be called upon to solve more complex and more uncommon problems. The WDO will also be engaging much more forcefully on the topic of environmental sustainability. With the world's limited resources and with growing unfavorable environmental conditions, there is a significant need on reducing overproduction and overconsumption, and design will play a big role in that effort. We all have to contribute to a world that we want to live in for ourselves and also for the next generation. There are also a number of other issues that will be focused on, not least of which is the development of a global design policy template. The WDO has an objective to encourage national governments to work together and to use design as a common platform and as a resource to achieve their larger objectives. As the world works hard to emerge out of the COVID pandemic, it's truly a great time for all of us to reconnect with the global community and also to partner with WDO to improve the quality of life through design. As mentioned through all of the different experiences shared today, there have already been many proud achievements through our long-term strategic plan, and the creation of the WDO Foundation will be what I describe as mission critical to take our efforts to the next level. So just to finish my comments, I'd like to highlight a few key announcements. Pier Paolo had already mentioned that the WDO has a long legacy in design history and in design collaborations. 2022 marks the 65th anniversary of the World Design Organization, again, formerly known as ICSID. And it is celebrated every year on the 29th of June as WIDD, the World Industrial Design Day. So next year will be a major milestone, and you can really expect to hear much more throughout the year. Look for this WIDD Day because it's going to be spectacular. Our design assembly, our World Design Assembly, rather, it occurs every 2 years. And our upcoming event, which will take place in February, February 23rd to 25th, it will be our 32nd World Design Assembly. It is hosted by Shunda, a city in China, and will also be broadcasted from Montreal in collaboration with the WDO Secretariat Office, which is located in Montreal. So please reach out to WDO for more information if you would like to follow the topics that will be discussed during that World Design Assembly. And finally, we'll be officially launching Valencia, the designated city, as WDC, or the World Design Capital 2022. So it's a year when the world of design comes to Valencia in Spain, and will support several major design events throughout the year. And we invite anyone or any organization to come and visit this beautiful city and to look at how design can create a renaissance in the way that people live and in the way that people structure their city of the future and their living arrangements. So look for additional announcements throughout the year on all the different events that will be coming out of the WDC. Again, Valencia, World Design Capital 2022. So I want to thank all of you again for your interest and for your support of the newly launched WDO Foundation. Together, we can do great things. So let's work together to design for a better world. Thank you.
Thank you. So once again, thank you, David, for this look forward and to also showing the path where we will continue to drive a lot of impact. We're really looking forward to engaging with our stakeholders, with the design community. I think we have all the tools now in hand to influence the designers to improve their practice in terms of more sustainable design, to inspire other organizations and international agencies to use design to help them achieve their own objectives, and doing that by and through projects that have impact for communities. So it is really an inspiring talk we've had today. I want to thank you all so much for your contribution. It was great to hear all those testimonials from an organization that is also passionate. I want also to thank the Secretariat team for making some little miracles happen and to allow us to launch this foundation and to host this event. I want to thank the board for their inspiration and their vision. All of the attendees here and online, thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to sharing and partnering on future projects. Thank you all once again, and congratulations to the WDO Foundation to all. Thank you.